anything is possible. I also think the Latin American thing should not be played down. I think many people in Latin America are very pleased that there is a Latin American Pope. But Latin America is a very big place. And Argentina, as you know from knowing my experience there, is a very unique place in Latin America, probably along with Uruguay, the most Europeanized. So someone suggested today that, in fact, he was an Italian who just happened by accident of birth to be born
his parents are Italian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think the fact is that he is a Latin American, that shows that there is a trajectory toward the developing world. I mean, heaven forfend, there aren't, all that many Catholics to make a quorum in most of Europe today. So it's certainly a good business decision. And I think this is basically a business deal. This is really how do you keep the corporation going with the best kind of leadership. Now, it doesn't mean the most robust kind of leadership, but somebody who will at least maintain the status quo. And I think this man can confidently be considered someone who will do that. So I'm of the mind that things will not change much anytime soon.
Well, let's talk about Argentina a bit. So in the United States, Catholics do not think uniformly on a lot of things that the Vatican stands for. Birth control, homosexuality, women's ordination. I mean, there's a lot of diversity of opinion among American Catholics on those kinds of issues. Is that also true in Argentina?
Absolutely.
Among Argentinian Catholics?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Not as well organized as here, probably because of some of our tax laws and so forth that make it a little bit different, a little easier here to organize these things. But certainly among rank-and-file Catholics in Argentina, there is a wide variety of views on all of these issues. That's the case all over the world. Mm-hmm. There's also the long history in Argentina, which is probably the most salient point about this gentleman, the long history of the involvement of the church with various governments. And certainly during the dictatorship was the time that I lived in Argentina. I spent 2 years, 1980 and 1981, teaching at ICIDET, which is the school, the theological school of the Protestant churches, kind of like Union Seminary in New York. That would be sometimes called Union Seminary in Buenos Aires. And right. I was a visiting professor there for 2 years and learned a lot, I must say. And that was during the so-called Dirty War. That was 1980 and 81, and that was a time when this Pope was at that point in the leadership of the Jesuits. And I belonged to a group. We had a group at the seminary that was actually among seminary professors and theologians in the city, a group of people who favored human rights and who worked on human rights. And I had the privilege of being a part of that group. It met 1 month at our seminary, 1 month at the Jewish seminary. The Jewish counterpart to our dean was, and you may know this name, Sarah, Rabbi Marshall Meyer, to whom Jacob Timmerman dedicated his book, Prisoner Without a Name, Cell Without a Number. And Marshall Meyer was a heroic person in the dealing with the dictatorship in the Dirty War. There wasn't a Jesuit in our group, I'm sad to say. And I had just graduated from a Jesuit school in Berkeley. I'd done a Master of Divinity with the Jesuits and then a doctorate with a Jesuit advisor. And I was rather surprised then that there were no Jesuits in this group, and very few Catholics, maybe 1 or 2 from our seminary faculty that was actually ecumenical. But that, I think, is the answer to the question people want to ask about what did Francis do when, what did Francis know when, in terms of the 2 Jesuit priests who were kidnapped in Argentina. And in fact, I don't think we have the data on that at this point, but I think it will turn out to be that it was more, as it were, sins of omission, what he didn't do, or the Jesuitical, if you will, choice that he made to work behind the scenes. And in those days, I had the privilege of being a volunteer in the office of Adolfo Pérez Esquivel, who was the Nobel Peace Prize winner in 1980 for his work with the Mothers of the Disappeared, Las Madres de Plaza de Mayo, and with other groups that were working on human rights abuses during that time. And Adolfo came out with a statement yesterday that was very interesting to me, saying that, in fact, when he was cardinal, the now Pope Francis was not involved in helping the dictatorship. Adolfo said he knew other people who were involved, and this guy wasn't. And I have to say, I take Adolfo very seriously as a source. So I think it's pretty clear that he wasn't among the worst. but did he distinguish himself as a human rights leader? Was he public in his speaking out in favor of the mothers and grandmothers of the disappeared, in fact, of the disappeared themselves? The answer to that is no.
Right.